Yeah, I'm going to push that button. Yeah, that appears to be working because I haven't checked it yet. This episode of Getting Tabled is brought to you by Valhalla Hobby. Use code TABLE to get 5% off any order over $100. One use only. Please consider becoming a Patreon and supporting us for $2 a month.
Brought to you by some guys on the internet.
This is Getting Tabled.
With your hosts, Jason the Bruce,
You guy!
George the Yang,
I hope you are all entertained by my inaptitude.
Jason aka Major Socks.
We've been doing this and talking about various stuff. One of the stuff.
Now sit back, relax, and get tabled.
Hello, future people, and welcome to episode 130 of Getting Tabled with your host, the Bruce.
Hello, folks. We're back with another episode. And we're also here with the main man. Well, he pretends to be. Oh, I guess he's here. It's Major Socks.
I was gonna say, without me, it's not a true cast. And we've got George, who may not be freezing anymore up in No Man's Land, Wyoming.
It is currently 61 degrees in Freedom units.
So no, you're not freezing.
Well, in this episode, we're looking at some exciting stuff from TT Combat, GC Studios. We're going to talk about some Games Workshop stuff as well, including their April Fool's joke this year. Let's get started with the news.
Newly received or noteworthy information, especially about recent or important events.
I want to start off by just acknowledging something very, very quickly. The most exciting part of the TT Combat news, I cannot provide you with a link for because it hasn't been officially announced. However, we have pictures that I can share. Huge thanks to Emily Kittlesides for sharing this. If you want to find out more, you need to join either the Drop Fleet Commander community or the Drop Zone Commander community, and you should be doing it now. Because if you're a fan of those games, I don't understand why you're not in those groups already. But we are going
you haven't joined back in after the fiasco that happened last month?
That was like 2 months ago. You mean when the
Was
guy
it 2 months ago?
When
That's about
the
2
guy
months now.
hacked-
Oh,
George
yeah,
is-
2 months ago, yeah.
George is referring to a gentleman that hacked the group and kicked all of the admins out and tried to stage a coup. And it didn't go very well for him. Let me just put it that way.
No.
We are going to start.
By Officer drones.
Yep.
And these are pretty cool.
What are we starting with, Socks? What is the game called?
Drop Team Commander.
No, Socks is
I know,
failed.
Drop Squad.
Drop
I mixed
Squad
them too.
Commander.
That's it. Socks
Called
is
Drop
failed.
Squad Commander.
It's Civvy
However-
Socks again. It's Civvy Socks again.
We've been overruled and it's now Strike Team Commander.
Yeah. So there is actually a couple of videos incoming for Strike Team Commander. And yes, I am calling it that on purpose because I'm talking about a video that's coming up. So we have a by officer infantry drone, which is kind of a play on their, like we've had these ships for Drop Fleet and Drop Zone for a while now, where we didn't really know where they came from. And clearly we're starting to see a little bit of evidence as to where this stuff comes from now. I think I like the drone maybe even more than I like the ships. I did like the ships. The Hulk is even more impressive, which is the next one.
Yeah.
I kind of really like the triangle design. I mean, it's simple, but it's a good kind of simple. George?
This is a very interesting, unique, and a very good way race look as far as the appearance for the faction.
Yeah, it has grey vibes to me.
Yeah,
what I'm referring to by greys, then I don't know how to help you.
Think Paul, but with muscles.
And everybody that has a friend called Paul is now very confused.
If you don't know what Paul is, I'm sorry. I pity you.
Yeah, I feel sorry too. I really like this. Is a gorgeous mini. I think they've done really well here. Like I said, the Hulk is also here as well. I just think they're gorgeous. Like, serious. I love the fact that you can kind of see the sinewy muscles and like they kind of feel like they're half built because clearly they're not real creatures. They've been created.
Yeah, they're very obviously a bioengineered warrior type thing. So it's kind of almost like the your beloved Tau faction that the Crude are under with. There's the Firecast warrior group, but then there's like the actual guys calling all the shots that don't do crap.
Yeah. So so we don't really know anything about these guys yet. I'm kind of hoping that where these come from remains a bit of a mystery. Like we don't know who's in charge, but clearly somebody is in charge. I can't help but wonder. So I don't think this is what the Scourge is afraid of, or reported to be afraid of, because apparently that's not something the Scourge have said. It's something that we're guessing is the issue. But I'm kind of hoping that this is a mystery that does eventually get solved, but is not solved straight away. Just as the universe expands. Going back into Drop Fleet, we have some new civilian ships. So we've only ever had the one civilian ship, really, which was the cruise liner. And we've kind of just expanded into these three. These were revealed as part of Salute this weekend. So we have this gorgeous-looking civilian liner here. What do they call it?
I don't know, but it's a very 1950s retro sci-fi look.
Yeah.
It's
like,
meant to be like an alternate version of the Princess liner.
I was gonna say it's like a cruise liner in space. That would be my guess.
It looks like a Colonial One from the Battlestar Galactica reboot.
Okay. Yep. I
Yeah.
can see that. Not that I've seen a lot of that show, but I do know the ship you're referring to, yeah.
Yeah, like with that very, the prominent, command bridge in the front and then the rest of it. But
yeah.
But I don't know if you guys watched the Fallout show on Amazon yet.
Not yet.
Nope.
The way they're doing that, this ship has that aesthetic of when things went downhill, and it looks like it could be a spaceship from that era.
We've seen a lot of retro sci-fi vibes recently, and I think I'm all in for it. I really do like the vibe. The next one is, well, it looks more on one of the space stations, but I do.
I was gonna say it looks more like a science vessel.
Yeah. And then last but not least is very clearly that's just a cargo ship. That's all it is. And I don't mean that as a criticism. I mean, like, that's all it's supposed to be. It's
kind of reminds me of something that'd be off in a mining asteroid field
with
those
like
huge
the
bays.
resistance ships.
Yeah,
it's clearly deliberate.
Yeah.
This is showing where the Resistance got their fleet from. They have scrounged it from cargo vessels and stuff.
From miners. Yeah. The people that mine stuff, not young people.
Maybe both. Who knows? And then finally, in the official news, we have some terrain. Mainly one piece of terrain and a couple of expansions, but I kind of wanted to look at this because, I mean, A, Bushido, but B, this thing is gorgeous. So everybody needs to have a pagoda if you've got a Japanese game. Whether you're going for the Tower of Death or whatever the Bruce Lee movie was called. The one that he died filming, unfortunately. Or, well, anything else. But it's just pretty.
Yeah, it is nice.
The crazy part is you can buy additional tiers for it and make it,
as tall
really
as
freaking tall. Yeah.
So
no, you're going to be limited by the height from wherever you set it to your ceiling.
Well, that is true. So in the initial building, you can see that there are closed and open levels to the pagoda, and that's basically what you're able to buy. Is an open and a closed version of the pagoda. You can't rebuy the base. It's only the upper levels. I would love to see an extension that you could buy to this, or a version of this that becomes a dice tower. Just
That
putting
would
it
be
out
cool.
there. Just putting it out there. Not that I want to make your job harder, Louis, but come on, give me a dice tower that looks like terrain. We got one for the
I
farming
think-
kit. Give me one for Bushido.
I was gonna say that'd be pretty fantastic for Bushido because
You can
You know,
add it
it
to
give
the,
you
it-
excu-
it'd add to the levels of the blind. Like I have my, and like then you can reveal it and like throw it straight. in.
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't know. I really like this. £42 too. Like this is a pretty decent deal. 15 and 17 for the levels. Like, this would be a really nice centerpiece. Actually, the one thing
It's about
I don't-
18 inches tall. About 16 and a half, 17 inches tall.
Okay. And it's about a foot wide.
Yeah.
So this is a decent sized centerpiece for a table, I think. Keeping in mind, well, I'm speaking of Bushido just because that's what I play. The Bushido game is a 2 foot by 2 foot square, so you don't really have a lot of room for terrain. This would probably be your big building in the center of the table, I would argue.
Yeah,
or off
'cause,
to the side somewhere, but you wouldn't want to have more than one of these on a Bushido table. Other tables, sure.
because when you're setting up, the terrain has to be able to be so far apart from other pieces of terrain as well. So
All right. Coming up next, I'm going to just move to our close-up cans for the moment, and we're going to discuss the thing that we have been very critical of for Drop Fleet for a while. When we got the 1.5 rulebook, I did a review of it that's actually had quite a few views for us.
yeah,
Yep.
And the one, like, it was a good book. Like, the book itself was good, but the problem is that the game at that stage needed a second edition. TT Combat have not officially announced a second edition at this stage, but Dave Lewis has been on the floor discussing second edition. And apparently we may even see it as early as September. We have confirmation of new plastic sprues that are coming. We don't really know anything else yet, but we've had confirmation that it is coming.
for like the
I
monitors
have
and stuff. Which
Two feelings.
Monitors
about
and
this.
destroyers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that what it was? Yeah.
yeah,
I think it's some destroyers and monitors.
which I'm very excited about because and this is a problem a lot of companies have is because all of these resin pieces, yeah, sure, I mean that's one way to do it, but sometimes it's really hit and miss of quality.
Well, the other issue with that is that if you have too much resin stuff, it becomes like a shelf problem. Like you end up having too many things that you have to keep in stock. I haven't heard complaints about that, but I know that they've had issues with their warehouse on a couple of occasions. It is why Drop Squad is being called Strike Team, because they've got too many things that sound the same and people in the warehouse were getting them confused, even though the boxes look entirely different. So that is why Drop Squad is not being called Drop Squad, for those that are not aware. And that comes directly from the owner of the company. Actually, did it? No, I stand corrected. That was Lewis, not Louis, that told me that. Not getting you confused, just forgetting who tells me things. Because they used to be the same person, for those that are not aware. I'm very excited about this. I have two overall feelings here. One, this is overdue. I know that there's some nerves in the community. There's a couple people yesterday that were like, oh, I don't know about this, because they've come from a Games Workshop background and new editions tend to go one of two
Scare
ways.
people. Yeah.
And because they've only just come to the company and now they're hearing rumors of second edition, they're going, oh no, it's happening to me again. I kind of reassured that person by saying, like, the indie scene is very different because, A, they can't afford not to be.
I did see that posting, and yeah, the one thing you mentioned and talked about was the fact that the ground combat stage, which is supposed to be like a little secondary part of the game, took the most time in the game.
Yeah, I'm just going to say this with apologies to Dave. From the very start of Drop Fleet Commander, it has been ruining the game. Like there is no fun in the ground combat. There never has been. We have discussed that to no ends on this podcast and on the Hot LZ. This is not a modern thing that people have gone, oh, well, no, we don't like this anymore. From the day the game came out, people have always had a problem with ground combat. It's kind of just...
And unfortunately, that's one of the best... and unfortunately, that's one of the main ways you get victory points in the game is by holding those clusters and sectors and so you almost needed it in terms of the game aspect, in terms of victory point wise, but you're absolutely right. I mean, having to count up all your dice and figurines or tokens on the board and trying to go through that land stuff, whatever control stuff, it always was tedious.
Yeah. Here's the thing that a lot of people may not be aware of. People that have been in the game for a while will, but people that are new to the game won't know this, which is that Dave Lewis, the guy that created the game, has always agreed with us on this. He's known that it was a problem from very early on, was going to get around to fixing it, but then TT Combat... Well, no, it wasn't that TT Combat bought them out. He decided that he wanted to sell the company. And it's kind of been something that they were going to fix ever since, but clearly it had been left for a second edition, which Louis decided it wasn't the time to do that about a year and a half ago. And finally we are getting essentially what we've asked for. So this is exciting.
Which you know, and a lot of people are still running around with, you know, a lot of these, you know, old version books where, like, there's been so much added to the game now where it's like, sure, you've got your book, but you have to have some sort of digital device with you to pull up all the other sheets that are only available online because so much has been added.
Yeah. Dreadnoughts, destroyers, monitors.
I don't entirely see that problem going away.
I don't either.
Well, the issue with rulebooks, physical rulebooks, is the moment that there is a change or an update, the book's out of date, which is why you have online resources. So a while ago, TT Combat decided to remove that issue by saying, like, this is just the rules for the game, and all of the stats for everything is online. And I actually personally think that that's a very appropriate approach to the problem.
That's what Warcradle Studio does.
Sorry?
That's what Warcradle Studio does with all their Orbats and all their rules. It's all digitally online.
They've been doing it from day dot. And actually, I genuinely think it's the right way to go. Now, that's not to say that you can't have stats in rulebooks and stuff. I'm not saying that. Not all companies have balance at such a high level in the importance in the game, because some things are just for fun, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But for a company like TT Combat, where the balance of the game is one of their main goals, and they've been pretty good with that, honestly. It's not often that you have something come out and it's that broken that it has to be fixed immediately.
Well, you say that, but how many erratas were there for the Shaltari when the game first dropped?
Yeah, but the Shaltari are crap.
The Shaltari needed it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, no, the microwave array, cutting that down, the gates, what else was it that got, like, the particle lance triad on the diamond? You know.
But it
came from you, George.
that didn't happen from day dot. That stuff was revealed over time to be a problem as people started to realize how to use them. I have never won a game against a Shaltari fleet. Ever.
I might have once. I think I have. Early on when Levi was first learning how to use them until George showed him.
Which is my point. Yeah.
Stop hating on me. Jeez.
I always will, just for that. But anyways,
George is a power gamer. He gets what he deserves.
I'm not a power gamer.
No, you just happen to own Custodes for no reason other than how pretty they are.
Because it was a good deal on the box. I'm sorry.
I know. I'm having a go.
And I got gold paint, like actual like gold paint. So
yeah,
they're super shiny.
Another thing we saw at Salute at Triple was you want to say this?
To it.
some strike team models would look
No.
awesome.
No. Drop
Drop
squad
squad.
models.
Sorry,
Inclu-
the Razor. I like
including-
Razorworm.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Including the one wish I had. The only thing I asked for was the razor worms.
And it looked
And-
awesome.
Oh my, this is amazing. I love it so much. Again, thank you to Emily. She's been sharing these in the group, so I stole the images so that we could talk about them today. So this is some of the new minis that we haven't seen, because we have some random infantry troops here as well as the preview models there in the background.
I like the look of some of those UCM models.
Yeah, the ones in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the ones I'm talking about. They are really, really gorgeous looking. I do find the acrylic bases quite amusing because of all the things to use, they've just decided to use acrylic bases.
It's funny you mentioned that. That seems to be like it's becoming a trend because I've seen a lot of the board game minis in the groups I'm in, where folks that do paint their minis, they're popping them off those bases that they come with, and they're replacing them with a clear acrylic base.
It does seem it is a thing that tends to be, it's very hit or miss. People either love them or they never touch them. Rumble Slam has always used acrylic bases. I'm not a fan of acrylic bases personally, but I can understand why people are. The idea is that way, I mean, A, you can be lazy and you don't have to do basing. But B, regardless of what table that you're on, it works because you just see straight through to the mat underneath it, which is really clever.
Yeah, it's for something like Rumble Slam or a board game. Like I can understand the want and appeal of that, but for like a wargaming thing where it's like, if you're doing a best pay and stuff like that, you need to have it on a basing that matches your display board to show it off of. Look what I can do.
Yeah.
I have a couple of issues. I've always had problems with things staying on acrylic bases. They just always seem to come off, regardless of what glue and how much glue I use. It's just it doesn't hold on to things, I find.
Yeah.
And the other side of it is that if you have a model that's heavy, you can't really pin it because you can then see the pin through the acrylic. And there's not really much of a way around that, unless it's not thin acrylic. Unless it's not clear acrylic, and then why you're using acrylic if that's the case.
Yeah.
The other preview that we got was the said plastic sprues.
Yeah. And the one on the right, you can clearly see it's a UCM Destroyer sprue.
Yep.
And the one on the left is that new faction, I'm guessing, with the triangle, because it has the triangles.
It does have the triangles on it, yeah. So we have some exciting times. Again, thank you to Emily. I stole these images from your feed, from the ones that you shared publicly. So thank you. But I wanted to talk about this stuff, and I didn't have any sources to do so because Louis has not said anything officially. I only have one concern about version 2 coming up. And that is that I really hope that there's been enough time put into this. Because the only concern I had initially was that when they announced that it was coming, I was kind of hoping that it was going to be, this is coming, and we're going to take X amount of time before it to be done so that it's right. Because ground combat is something that needs time. There have been a lot of people that's tried to solve this problem and been unable to fix the problem. Now, in saying that, we don't know how long they've been working on it, but we know that it wasn't happening when that rulebook came out. It has been fan feedback that's meant that this came through.
Yeah, so. Moving on.
Yes.
Blackside
So
Studios?
Yep, we got actually a few things that came out from Blackside Studios. I've kind of just grabbed a couple of things. We have a Session 0 expansion set for Don't Look Back, which is a new... So this is essentially, this is a new expansion. a new adventure that you can take your heroes on, which is based around an evil games master. He started his new game at the Bloody Tyrant's friendly local gaming store, with sharpened pencils and polyhedral dice. Basically, it's an evil DM that you're trying to escape from. Which is just all kinds of fun. Like, this is just so dumb. And I mean dumb in a really cool way. There's also a LARP Seth character card. Seth being one of the heroes. This is just lots of fun. So you got the Resin Games Master. You've got a new character card for Seth. And a new character mini for Seth. Being, I think it's meant to be... Hang on. So the evil DM is the one on the right, I believe. No, sorry. The evil DM is the witch doctor.
Like
on the
mask.
left, and then Seth is the one on the right who's clearly wearing some old-timey wig because you can see his glasses. So this is just fun. Expansions for Don't Look Back just add new depth to the game. There's always new killers and new heroes and so on and so forth. I just think this is a really fun idea, and I'm all there for it. The other thing that they've released recently, and we'll only talk about these briefly, but they're calling them zines. Basically what these are extremely experimental rules. This is basically a very cheap book that you can buy that has a game inside that you can play with whatever you want. So I'm just opening The Chase as an example, which is definitely not Twister. So this one, again, is a collaborative game. Players assume the role of a band of storm chasers. And this is just, it's a very experimental rule set to play a game.
Neat.
They are really simple. These are done specifically for events. It's a pretty simple rule set. So we have The Chase, we have Void Cowboys, we have B&B Nightmare, and we have Hill Zone. So it's going to be interesting to see where these all go. I'm not expecting that they will last forever, because it's kind of got that feeling about it. This is just something that it's happening. We'll see how it sells. But I'm kind of hoping that we see like a rolling rotation of this idea. Whether it be like even expansions for games and so forth could, in theory, happen this way. Or new ways to play said games. Especially if it's like just a zine like this that you don't have to have a lot of production behind. It's a fairly easy product, right? Like, you don't have to have miniatures or anything for it. Like, this is just all it is. So, I really like this idea. But we shall move on.
Conquest.
Conquest! We haven't talked about Conquest for a little while. We actually got an email from them recently asking us to do more content. So, yeah. I am currently looking at it. This is a new 2-player starter set. Conquest do this thing that I'm a really big fan of, and it's something that Warcradle will do as well, which is the whole, we have a new starter set for pretty much everybody that's out there. So we've got this. We've still got the original starter set. Wayland Games have 3 different starter sets right now, each with different factions in them. These guys essentially have the same thing. This one is specifically for the Sorcerer Kings and the City-States, which is our 2 most recent factions. So on the left, we have your undead Greek type guys in the City-States. On the right, we have the Sorcerer Kings, which we were big fans of, actually.
Yeah.
We were big fans of those minis because they're really pretty. Like, they're just gorgeous minis. Like, you see,
Yeah.
if you want a mass battle game and you're tired of a certain company changing things all the time, I would definitely recommend Parabellum. Like, they are really hitting things out of the park right now. You're seeing this pretty much everywhere. Is it as big as Age of Sigmar? No. But it has a pretty big following, and I'd be surprised if you didn't find somebody in your area that plays. Well, everybody apart from George, perhaps, because nobody lives in George's area, because it doesn't exist.
Yep.
But this is just gorgeous. Kind of feels like the perfect size for a starter set. And they kind of feel like everything that you would... Like, it's not like... Games Workshop quite frequently does sets where like there's a lot of stuff in it, but the stuff that's in the box is not stuff that you're going to end up playing with. This is all stuff that's going to belong in armies, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you got your basic armory, infantry. You got some cavalry, cheerleaders. So
yeah, this works really, really nicely.
Well, and if you look at it too, it's just like each army has there's 3 mounted cavalry, there's 3 Jins. You've got your basic troop, then you have your armored troop, then you have your general. Like, it's all the same thing.
It's all the same.
Rewind back many years ago when they first released Age of Sigmar, and you had your Sigmarines, and you had your Chaos Core, and it's like, cool, this is all balanced. Oh wait, no, it's not. The core side is shorted like 150 some odd points.
Yeah. And
so
more recent starter sets, the difference is even larger.
Mm-hmm.
Because they go on what looks good and not what works in the game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's by design too, though, is probably something we should point out. Because like they want people to have to buy more things. So I'm not saying that makes it okay. I'm just pointing out that it's something they do on purpose.
Yep.
All right. Let's talk about another game that I'm a big fan of. Not that
You
I'll
are?
ever talk about that too much. Bushido!
I didn't think you were a fan of this one.
Oh, I'm not sure how you got that idea. I talk about it every 3 minutes. So, we got a whole heap of new miniatures. There is actually previews for new stuff out there as well, but there's a lot to talk about, so not everything is on the list today. So, this is Kumiko. She is for the Prefecture of Ryu. So, she is a samurai for the faction, and she looks lovely. Kind of a very, very stoic pose. Like, it's a pose that's just right out of... It's almost cliche, I want to say, honestly.
Oh yeah, it's totally cliche / stereotyped.
Yeah.
But it looks amazing.
Yes.
Like, cliches aren't always a bad thing. Though I understand why people may think that's what I was getting at. She seems to have something where she can equip weapon cards, and they're cheaper. So, that's nice. We also have somebody for the Snake faction, the true heroes of the game. Totally. Look at how heroic this guy clearly is, with his double swords. That is just cool. So, sorry, this girl is Sadako. These are all female characters, by the way. So she is also a samurai. 21 rice, so she's getting up there in the cost-wise. She has a couple of different abilities, a couple of which are instant, so looks like she might be somebody that's acting pretty quickly and can be quite adaptable. But I just love the mini. The mini looks gorgeous. We also have Ajobe, who doesn't have a picture, sadly. But this is for the Dissension. That one it's on a 40mm base, so it's going to be quite chunky.
There's an image for it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can see it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, it's not loaded from... Oh, there we go. It just didn't load properly. There we go.
I was going to say, I can see it just clearly.
It's
It is a pretty
lovely
nice looking
third
model.
person. No, this might be my... I was going to say it's my favourite, but I don't know if it is. I do like this model. Again, a 22 rice, so this is, again, something quite pricey, points-wise. And a couple of different abilities. Got a special attack. I love the wings. The wings are gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
Anything I want to look at is... What is this? So this is a resin model. The resin models that I've seen from them so far have all been gorgeous. Just for the record. We have...
The ones I have are fairly stellar looking.
Yep. Akatsuki for the Minimoto. Minimoto are a horrible faction, and I don't like them because they stomp me into the ground every time they look at me. They are a very, very strong faction, very, very, very newbie friendly. If you're wanting to get into the game and you can't decide what to get into, the Minimoto are pretty straightforward. There's not really much of a learning curve with them. So that would be either them or Prefecture of Ryu would be the way that I point you if you're someone that doesn't want to have to fight an uphill battle. This one is, again, gorgeous. She has 2 of the clubs, which, what are they? Tetsubos. She has 2 of them, so she can give you 2 concussions, I suppose. I'm not sure why you would ever want 2 of them, honestly. Because surely the first one's already going to kill you. But anyway.
No, you swing with the first one, they block it. You swing with the second one, and you connect.
Good point. 18 rice, so she's a little bit cheaper than our previous ones. She's aggressive. She's got armor. I like her abilities, batter and frenzy. It just kind of really works. And then we are moving on. So there's been quite a few things. And like I said, there is, if you go look at the GCT Facebook page, there is a whole bit of previews for what the next wave will be. So this is all continuing to roll out. They have their release schedule pretty on pat at this point. It's wave after wave, reveal after reveal. It's kind of every month there is something that's coming, and they don't seem to make that trap of doing too many things at once and then having to kind of catch up again. They're pretty good with keeping things on track with what they can handle and what they can do. But the next one I wanted to look at is the Drowned Earth. This is something that we looked at semi-recently. They had a Kickstarter last year at some point, of which I have a box over there somewhere. They have some new stuff coming out. So we have Ryuza, the Mercenary Hunter, which I'm just going to straight up. I think this is my favorite of the ones we're going to talk about.
I think this is a horrible pose.
You don't like the pose?
You wouldn't run with a bow stretched out like that.
Who would
Well,
be
that's
aiming
true.
a bow with a drawn with your legs crossed like that? I understand it's a game, but let's get some accuracy at least.
Yeah, that's fair.
I'm gonna yell at the next one too when you talk about it, but I mean it looks good, but it's a terrible pose.
Yeah, fair enough. The Drowned Earth is kind of a game where everything has gone to hell, and like civilization as we know it's all in the pits, and everything's kind of restarted. Like there's dinosaurs and humans and apes that are as intelligent as the humans, and there's like lizard people and it's all crazy sci-fi. So there you go. We also have a lovely little lizard that looks like he has a gun that he's not strong enough to hold. And I'm guessing that you have a problem with him gripping the branch like that?
No. Like the U.S. Navy, who published a photo and then immediately took it down when they got called out for it, the scope is backwards.
I didn't even notice that. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, I kind of like that.
And I'm not joking. The United States Navy published a photo, and it was an officer, so we'll cut him some slack because they don't know how to use a rifle anyways. But everything about this shooting position, this officer was wrong, and to top it off, the scope was on the rifle backwards. So...
Are you telling me that people on the internet saw something with a mistake in it and didn't let it go? I'm so surprised. I don't know. You know what the sad thing is that I think that makes me love this mini more. Which is dumb. I shouldn't, but something about a lizard using the scope the wrong way just makes me like it more.
Well, my guess is he's acting to be like a sniper too, because he's got, I know it's partially wrapped, but he's got it wrapped like a sniper would with it.
Yeah.
To deflect the sunlight, or not a lot of the sunlight to deflect off of it.
It does have that vibe to it.
To camouflage it.
Yes.
Yeah. I will say, I also like the fact that you don't just get a picture of the mini, all painted up. You do actually get a picture of the STL, the actual 3D sculpt as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I like the fact that they do that. I don't know. I just really like this. Coming up next, we have another human. So this is Romy, the Dino Hunter, that kind of looks like they're saying clever girl. That's just the
I have
vibe
no
I get.
issues with this sculpt. This one's fine.
I mean, she looks tough. She looks like a badass, which clearly means that she's the first person to die, because that's just how these things work in science fiction. The toughest looking person is always the first one to die. Unless you're Arnie.
Or black. That's just how it is.
Unfortunately, in science fiction, it does tend to be the way it is. And then we have Hawk, speaking of lizard people from earlier. I don't quite... Is that meant to be his own helmet? I don't quite get what it's meant to be.
No, I think that's someone else's helmet, because if you look, it looks like there's part of a face sticking out of the mask there.
Oh, yeah, I can see that. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So he's either found a friend or someone that's had better days, let's say. Nice relaxed pose. I actually quite like a nice relaxed pose sometimes, depending on how they're done. Like, it kind of says more to the character and the story than what a mid-action pose is, though you want a little bit of both. Like, Games Workshop only ever seem to do action poses, and I kind of wish that we saw a little bit of both sometimes. And then last but not least, we have the Trudon box set, which is a whole heap of dinos. So these are kind
With
of
feathers.
Yep. These are things that have shown up to attack your characters and try to take them down during the game, and they are lovely and bright and pink and blue and purple, and Is it synthwave, the word I'm trying to think of?
It's late 80s, early 90s Taco Bell.
Yes.
Oh, I love that description so much. I will say, I actually think this is given what you're getting in that box, and I think they're all metal, I actually think that's pretty decent value.
We're going to stop talking about the minis on these for just a brief moment. We're going to stop talking about the paint job. We're going to talk about the basing on these.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Holy cow!
They've done really... yeah, and they're all good.
That basing is ridiculous. Like, that's Golden Demon basing right there.
They've done really, really good work. See, there's a couple of grass tufts on some of them, and what appear to be aquarium plants, or they may be the Gamer Grass laser plants. It's kind of hard to tell.
If you look at the first image where you've got all 5 of them, the one in the very front, like, there's so much going on in that basing. There's moss, there's leaves, there's a twig, there's the obligatory tactical rock that actually fits the way they've done the basing, so I'm not too mad at it.
I want to say that this is all aquarium plants. That's the vibe I have, and I think they've just painted them in a way to get rid of the gloss.
Yeah.
Does anybody disagree with me on that?
Not completely, no.
This feels like it's old school quality basing.
Yeah. I can't remember when we talked about it, but there was that one company we talked about where that's all they did was basing plants that were over the top. And this gives me that same vibe, so...
Yep, no, I'm right with you on that. The company in question was, because I was actually looking at them recently, Epic Basing.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I wouldn't be shocked if these guys use this because it is that epic.
I think it looks too fragile to be that stuff. It looks like it's aquarium plant. Excuse me, aquarium plant.
Bless you.
Moving on, we have some mini diorama displays. So there's been quite a few display case things come out recently. This one in particular is compatible. What was it called? With the Omni display case that we discussed a few months ago. It doesn't have to be used with that, but it's compatible with it. And basically, this is the whole idea of it's a display case, but you can actually paint it up to make it look like it's a scene, rather than just a bunch of minis sitting on a shelf. Which is an idea that I think most people have always loved, but it's not really been something that's been within grasp of a lot of people. This is again something that you'll need a 3D printer to do, but I think they've done a really nice job of it. Honestly, I just think this works really well. There's different sizes. There's different backgrounds. You've only got the 10 backgrounds, so you are going to get limited in that way.
Sure. After backing that along with JP, and then JP actually printing some of the stuff and me going through the files, that Omni case really soured me on some of this 3D print stuff. As far as
This isn't the same company, by the way.
No, I understand that, but for me to look at this and want to get this, like, I have that bad taste in the back of my throat from Omni case and the way their stuff was set up, and so I look at this like, it looks good, it looks great. Is it something I even want to look at again? Not really. I mean, I've got something that when I got it, it's not what I thought it was going to be, and what it was going to take to actually print it and use it.
I only have one problem with how this is laid out. As you're scrolling down, every so often you'll see like an animated version of it. So like the Cyberpunk one has like blinking lights and stuff, and there's smoke coming out of the New York City one, and that is stuff that's just outright not going to happen.
Yeah.
This.
Yeah.
In the case of the New York, maybe it's been printed in a way where, in theory, you could have a smoke machine in the back. But no, that's just not going to happen. And if it did, you would ruin your miniatures and your case because you'd have it full of smoke instantly.
I understand. They're trying to show us something that it can never be. Yeah.
In the case of like the one with the glowing lights.
Yeah, you could do that.
Print it in clear filament, but it's just not going to look that way. But I'm nitpicking. I think it's a really nice idea. This is certainly not something that I'm going to be backing. I would probably argue that if you want to do this, just buy some terrain. Be careful with the terrain that you pick, I guess. It depends on... I don't know, because maybe that's not fair. Because if you're just doing it in displays, then terrain probably doesn't work. But if you've got like cases like I have behind me, just buy terrain and paint it. Seriously.
I'm going to slightly argue with that, because if you do buy terrain, a lot of the terrain out there that's affordable, easy to ship, get your hands on, is MDF terrain. You assemble it, get yourself a good saw and guide, and then you can just saw off the back half or whatever, and then fit it in a case.
Good point. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I'll buy you one. I'll buy you one. That's No, that's a very good point.
So, it looks great. It'd be a hard pass though. The market's getting too flooded now at this point, and you've got to do something really good, I think, to really garner attention and sales, I guess, is a lack of better words.
Yeah. In theory, I should be sitting here going on about how much I love the New York one for Entropy City. And honestly, I look at that and go, of all of them, the Plague World one's probably my favorite, really. But I'm not disagreeing with you. This is it's a cool idea. It's at $65 for the all-in, $44 for the early bird all-in.
Which there's 4 left, so at time of recording.
True.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. So they've done $54,000. It certainly hasn't done the sort of numbers that the Omni case and everything had done. So, I don't know. I don't know what their goals were. They may not have expected to do any better than what they've got, but there's certainly bits of this that I'm like, I like what they're trying to do. I do like what they're trying to do, but there's something that's not quite. I will say this. It's not going to use as much filament as the previous stuff we've mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I don't know.
I want to talk about
There's
the next
something
thing
that's
now.
missing. Yep, let's talk about the next thing. We
It's
have
in
a
the Duhan?
James Doohan figure.
James Doohan. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. I didn't know it was pronounced that way. Second Lieutenant James Doohan. George, would you like to tell everybody who that is?
Most people know him better as Chief Engineer Scotty from Star Trek, the original TOS. He really was in World War II in the Canadian Army and took part of the storming of the beaches of Normandy. He was not the Normandy Beach, D-Day, sorry. He was not on Normandy because, well, he survived.
Yes.
But yeah, he was part of the Canadian Army. Later on in his career, he was actually a pilot for the Canadian Army and was thrown out because he slalomed a plane through telephone poles to prove it could be done. Another interesting fact is he lost part of his finger during the beach assault because the bullet ricocheted off of his cigar case.
Oh, I love that fact particularly. So, this is can I take a cotton? That's literally what they've called the mini. And then in brackets it says second Lieutenant James Doohan on D-Day. So this is just a miniature that they've done because they've decided to do it. It's also quite affordable miniature, really.
Yeah. Well, and
it is
the cool thing too is you can use it for your Canadian bolt action army. So
Yes.
you could have him as one of your officers in your company that you'd build.
Yep. Which is I love the fact that they continue to do stuff like this. It's just really cool. Like they've done this for like community members. They've done this for, in this case, a famous person, but they don't flood the market with them either. They're always very, very careful about what they choose to do in this way. It's a limited edition figure. It won't be around forever. It's only being sold until the end of this month. So if you're a Star Trek fan that plays bolt action, you have about 16 days to buy this. It's only $10. So, yep. There it is. Games Workshop. I have a feeling that George and I are going to be on the same page with this one.
So real quick, I want to throw one other little cool factoid about this too. When James Doohan passed, he was buried in space.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, his ashes were set up on a SpaceX rocket and interned in space. So.
Okay, that's cool. So
Display cases.
Yep. So Games Workshop are teaming up with a company called Wicked Brick to do display cases for $40K. So this is a company that does premium display cases for usually Lego bricks and stuff, but in this case they're doing it specifically for Warhammer stuff. You can either get them with or without the backgrounds. I would probably argue that you'd be silly to spend the money on this sort of stuff and not get the backgrounds. That's just my personal opinion. Honestly, I'm looking at this and I'm kind of going, I don't really get it. I mean, I get it, but I don't think they look very nice.
I like them in their simplicity and the fact that, you can put them together, meaning you could take them apart. And if you're one of those people that disgust me with the fact that you can paint a mural on a shoulder pad, you could take this apart and paint the acrylic to add to the display. Yeah. So we'll just look at the single hero one there, right? There's no reason why you couldn't, reverse paint it up from the inside of flames on the front of it or rubble to give it more of a 3D effect on the case because
Yeah.
you can take it apart. Um,
Yeah, no, I like
I'm
that
looking
idea.
at I'm looking at this so again I'm looking at the single miniature one. It says it's 60 by 60 mil, $23. That's cheaper than the miniature. So first of
Yeah.
all, that's a good point right there. It's cheaper than the damn miniature. Games Workshop, figure that out. But I could see what you're saying. You know, it's a very simple looking case. And we were just talking about like, you know, it has to be really something to, you know, impress me. And
Yeah.
now the one thing I will say is the little plaques.
I actually quite like the little plaques.
I do like those. Yes.
You can't buy
If
them
you
like
could
that.
get them customized a little more,
Yep.
like I would be like on top of that. You know, like get your own, you know, not even just, you know, have it say Warhammer 40K, Adeptus Astartes, Imperial Fist. Like get something else printed on that, but on the same material with the same stand. Like that would be cool.
Yep. 100% with you on that. While you're talking about this stuff, I'm going to grab an alternative.
Docs, what do you think of the display cases?
I've got them up there on my wall. They're shelves. No, I think it's a cool idea, but again, other than displaying your army long term, how feasible are you going to be actually using them as display cases?
Yeah.
That's
Because
fair.
you're gonna-
Yeah.
Because if that's an army you're going to be using, it's going to be a pain to take them in and out of those type of display cases all the time.
I've got to throw this out because I actually saw this in my Facebook feed this last week. It was on one of the 40K pages. Someone said, "Who else besides me buys and paints and doesn't play? Like, I can't be the only one." There are
Most
some people who,
I was going to say those. Yeah, they're all those folks. Yes.
Most people paint and don't play. The player base is a lot smaller than people think it is. And I'll get hate for that, but unfortunately it's actually true.
So other than those people out there that buy and paint and just display, as a player, I have no need for one.
yeah, that's fair.
This is an alternative. This was kickstarted a couple of years back, just prior to the pandemic. We spoke about these on the... So this base is magnetized.
Yeah, I remember those vaguely. They're out of Utah or something, right?
Yeah. So getting them internationally is not the cheapest. This is like actual acrylic, but without all the ugly looking screws and everything. This one's dusty because I didn't prepare to show this off. I actually, if anything, bought too many of these. They're really easy to open.
That happens.
Well, they're really easy to open, and that's the thing where, like, Sox is using the argument that you wouldn't play with these because they're going to be too hard. And I agree with him. Like, getting things in and out of that would be a nightmare. But that's not an issue with this.
Actually, so I just looked at one of the images, and it looks like the top is just magnetized on, which makes no sense. Why wouldn't it be magnetized from the base? But the top is magnetized, so...
oh, okay.
I clicked on the one that has the one with the dreadnought and the squad in it. If you go and look at one of the images, the top is actually magnetized.
Interesting.
So maybe getting them in and out isn't. And like I said, for the argument of you saying you don't like how the corners look, I like how the corners look.
Yeah, like it's going to be one of those things where you'll either like it or you won't, I think. The description of this is black magnets are recessed into the base to keep the clear acrylic securely in place. So by the sounds of that, they're both magnetized, the top and the bottom.
Interesting. So, I'm fine with this. I think this is a fairly okay, just because... Oh, wow, I can really You can really do some stuff with that. The price is, I think, okay, given the fact of what you're putting in their costs.
Yeah. Like, this is something that's being sold as a premium product, and it is. I'm not arguing that it's not. It includes official art to help enhance it. Aesthetically, I don't like it. That doesn't make it a bad product. It just means that aesthetically, I don't like it. I think with this sort of thing, if Games Workshop were to do it, getting a different company to license the approval is the better way to go. Games Workshop making a product like this is just not going to end well because it's not their wheelhouse. So this was definitely the right way to go. But I have the benefit of already owning something that does the same thing. So
Yeah.
I come at this going, I don't get it because this, I think, was cheaper. But getting these posted elsewhere and not in America is a nightmare. So it's not
so
much
here's the
option
other
for a lot of people.
here's the other thing too that I will counter argue this, and I'm not disagreeing with you in any way, Bruce, but the way these cases look, where it's got the quarters you put together, these look like they can be shipped flat packed.
Yeah, most likely.
Which means sending them to the southern hemisphere is going to be easier and
better.
cheaper because you can fit in something that thick instead of that.
Yeah.
That's literally the point I was making with this.
Yeah.
Was that the downside of this is that these are hard to get elsewhere. You can get them. I paid what feels like not very much for postage on these, given what I received.
Yeah.
And the feedback I still get feedback on my video for these today. And it's usually, I'm in Canada and I wanted to buy this, but postage was just too much. Because it's not that the product is amazing, but getting access to them was always very hard because it's bulky. I mean, it's not heavy, but it's bulky and therefore it's expensive to ship.
Yeah.
So this is definitely a way around that, and you're right there. But hey, if you're in that area of the world, it's an option. We also have the...
Yep. I was going to say, you're probably pretty interested in this, right? Get yourself a little pinky ring.
Oh, I would
right?
love this. So this was their April Fool's joke of the year, which was essentially... I'm going to play the video, but I'm going to mute the... Oh, maybe I can't mute the video.
Yeah, there's no mute button.
Boo. So, for the April Fool's joke this year, they made out that they were going to start selling Warpstone jewelry. And they've gone really, really... They've done a really good job on this. Because they've made it look like an old school jewelry commercial. They've used all of your filters and everything to make it look like that. I mean, it looks like a real ad, but of course Warpstone doesn't exist, so... I mean, you could easily make jewelry and just say that it's Warpstone. You could do that and make money with it. People would buy it. I love how ugly this jewelry is. Like the raspberry one is just all kinds of hideous. But it's so good. This is brilliant. Is it as good as the ad where Duncan was going on about how doing the whole Conan speech but with painting? No, but it's really good. I really, really like what they did with this. I thought it was phenomenal. We don't talk about their April Fool's jokes very often, but I don't think they've really had a bad year with this stuff.
Everything April Fool's wise, I think, is inferior to the Voton.
Yeah,
because
it turned out to be true.
Yeah, because they're just like, April 1st, check this out, they're back, the squats, blah blah. And it was like, oh great, and like, no, really, they're back.
Yeah.
Like
the fact that they played it as a joke, only to go, oh, by the way, that wasn't a joke. That's
right,
what made that.
So that's what they have to do from now on. They have to do that level of it's a joke, and it either has to be that epic of a joke, or it turns out it's not a joke.
I like the fact that we have 24 karat Warpstone. Like, not only is it a stone that doesn't exist, it's a really high quality version of the stone that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Oh, dear. Anyway, I really like this. But moving on, the last story of the day. We have some Skaven. Now, we knew this. We knew that there were new Skaven coming. We talked about it last episode. But we actually have previews of, in this case, the Clan Rats. I really like what they're doing here. We haven't had new Clan Rats since the 90s. Like, the Clan Rats that we have right now actually look a lot nicer than they have any right to. I don't remember exactly what year it was, but I think it was very late 90s off the top of my head. They are quite an old kit. These are really, really nice. They don't look that new that they don't fit in, but at the same time, everything's been updated really nicely. Like the shields, kind of like they are they do resemble the shields that we have. And there's still the different types. The blades are all still the nice curly ones. We have lots, and like these are all Clan Rats. No more of this, because the old kit used to be some of them were Clan Rats and some of them were supposed to be Skaven slaves, and then the Skaven slaves don't exist anymore. These all kind of feel like they're from the same thing and not two different miniatures in one, which is nice. Then we kind of get an idea of what they look like compared to other things. So it's still about the same size as the old Clan Rats, which is good. We don't really want them to look bigger or smaller. And then we get a little bit of a preview of you can pick your side. You can pick the Skaven or you can pick the Stormcast Eternals. And I guess that's the other thing that we should probably talk about with this. Because as much as this is the last article, there is another Age of Sigmar thing we should be talking about, which is about this time last week, Games Workshop announced that there's going to be a whole heap of miniatures that you're not going to be allowed to use anymore. And I know that you have opinions on this, George. We'll get to your opinions in a moment. So, all of the stuff that they are replacing will officially not be allowed to be used in competitive in 2025.
Yep.
So first things first, there is people out there reporting slightly false information. This is not in effect now. It doesn't come in effect until next year. There are people that are fighting online about this right now, going, no, you're lying. This is literally what they said. Pay attention to what they said. I'm not saying that it makes it okay, but you don't need to lie to be angry. If you're going to be angry about the truth. Because it just really... It infuriates me because there's no need for it. They don't need to embellish the truth to make their point. And all they're doing, if anything, is making the fanboys make them look like idiots. Like, you already have a point. You don't need to lie to pretend that your point's more important.
Right. Yeah.
There's a couple of reasons why people are upset about this. Traditionally, Games Workshop were very, very much not this company. This is not the first time it's happened. It's the second in the last 12 months. And you could make an argument that it's happened maybe 3 or 4 times if you include fantasy. Though I would probably argue that you can't really use it. Age of Sigmar is not the same argument.
I was going to say you can't count fantasy because they just killed off fantasy and said it's this now. Done.
Yep.
And so much of it got dropped, and that was really frustrating.
They gave literally it took a few months, but you got 3 rules of everything that existed initially. They did eventually fade that off, but
so yes and no, because the first rule set of Sigmar did not include point values.
True.
So so initially when they killed off fantasy and went to Sigmar, like, they really, like, screwed things up because they replaced a good, solid game set with a new game set that was almost virtually unusable because there was no balance to it. And I'm going to say this is worse than the Firstborns versus Primaris, because Primaris they were introducing him, and they said, "Oh no, this isn't good. No, we're not going to do that. No, we're actually, yeah, we are."
Yeah.
Like
If
they gave
hadn't-
time.
If they hadn't have lied about it, it wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
People have said lied about this as well. I don't recall them ever saying that. I believe the reason they're saying that they've lied is because they're called Eternals, and now they're taking them away. How dare you lie to us? But if there's somewhere out there where Games Workshop have said Stormcast Eternals are always going to be here, I haven't found it. That doesn't mean it wasn't said. I just said I haven't found it.
They're not getting rid of Stormcast Eternals. They're only getting rid of like
Certain
a
models.
lot of the core of
They're getting rid
Stormcast
of
Eternals. That
pretty much the entire first wave of them, more or less.
exactly.
They're all being replaced, is what's actually happening.
Right. So, and that's the issue I have is like
It's your
of
entire
the-
army.
it's 90%.
Okay.
But of the competitive play I've done, I have done it with Sigmar, not 40k. Yes,
Yep.
I've done it a couple times with 40k, but a majority of it has been with Sigmar because I just feel that is a much better game. It is a much better rule set. It's just better in my opinion. And now I have an army as of 2025 where I will either have to replace it or not use it. So
Games Workshop are throwing them in themselves into pretty much between a rock and a hard place, because at this stage they have one option. Not two, they have one option. The new models need to make the old ones look really bad. That is the
Yes.
only option they have. If the new models are just like, then they'd have to be pretty confident about these new models. Which isn't to say that they will be great, but they'd want to be. Now, the old kits were kind of very... I mean, they were very... Like, some of them are push fit from memory. They're very limited, the old kits.
So yes and no. There are some release as a push fit for like beginners because that's what they're really trying to push with Sigmar is make it more of a beginner friendly because it is a much friendlier game to learn to play than 40k is.
Unless you don't like the double turn thing.
Right.
Let's not get into
Which I do love that because that changes the game up
like
so
it as well.
much. The Stormcast Eternals were very much a lot of these single marine poses where it's like you had to put it together this way. There was no posability to it, like with the Firstborns.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, most of these Eternal kits, they were dynamic enough and looked good enough that it didn't matter if you couldn't pose them because it just looked good.
Okay.
So
Socks, being the only one that doesn't really have a horse in this race.
Yep.
You have played games where models have been discontinued and are no longer used. Not so much because Star Wars Legion, they've avoided replacing anything unless there's stuff that was replaced that I don't know of.
Nothing's been replaced.
It's definitely happened in Bolt Action at some points, though it may have happened after you left the game. There are
maybe
arguments
a little bit
about dystopian wars, but the fact is that War Cradle have never said that. It's the community that said that, not War Cradle.
Every single one of my pieces.
You can 100% you can 100% use the old dystopian war stuff if you want to.
Correct. It's going to be out of scale from the newer stuff, but there are people out there that still use it.
Yeah. This sort of stuff doesn't happen in the industry a lot. Like I said, traditionally Games Workshop were very much not this company. When I used to play competitive Warhammer, I had somebody that was using, and this was 100% legal at the time, it's not now, but it was then, a 2nd edition Rhino as part of their 40k army. And the reason they were doing it is because it was massively smaller than the new ones, which gave them a competitive advantage. Now, did it make them that guy? We'll talk more about that guy later. Or that player? Yes, it did make them that player. But they were well within their rights to do it. It was an expensive miniature that they had gone out of their way to buy. They had every right to do it and paid through the nose to do it. This stops that being a problem. Though I would argue that it's kind of a moot point because none of these miniatures are old enough to be that big a difference in size unless they change the size of them, I guess. But this to me feels like Games Workshop trying to do Magic the Gathering, but with miniatures. That's what it feels like. They have also done it with the Skaven, for the record. It's not just the Stormcast Eternals. So all of the Skaven that I purchased 2 years ago and was painting, all of those are going to be useless to me. In saying that, I actually don't have a huge problem with it. Because you know what the problem is? On the Skaven side, a lot of those miniatures are garbage. Like the Rat Ogres, specifically, are horrible. Ironically, there are good Rat Ogres that you could buy at one point. They came with the Island Blood set. But you can't buy them because they never release them separately. So the current Rat Ogres that you have are from previous editions that look more like monkeys than they do actual Rat Ogres. So I'm actually kind of excited about this because there's stuff that they will release that I will buy. I will buy it later. I don't need new projects right now. The fact that I'm excited about some of these releases doesn't mean that I disagree with the public on this. I actually do agree with the public on this. I don't like this change. It's very, very anti-consumer. Games Workshop have been working very hard to improve their reputation in recent years. To the point where one of the only arguments we've had traditionally have been their price gouging, which they're still doing.
Yeah.
They did it on the Crute box, and I paid it because I needed the Crute. And they did. It was like $60. Well, no. I had waited $10. I had waited 10 years for that box. I'm still waiting on my replacement, by the way. We'll talk about that later.
So, yeah, Michael, and your analogy of Magic the Gathering it and obsoleting stuff to
that's my
when
observation.
this happened,
if other people have said it, I haven't heard it. That's my observation.
So why do you obsolete stuff to get people to buy the new stuff, right?
Yep.
I don't know if you know this, but Games Workshop is publicly traded. I don't know if you've looked. Their stock price is down.
Oh yeah.
How do you push the stock price back up? You increase sales. How do you increase sales? You get people to buy stuff. How do you get people to buy stuff? You obsolete stuff they've got.
In saying that, what's one of the reasons that price went down, George? This announcement pushed the price down.
Yeah. I jokingly said the person that said we need to redesign the website also made this decision too, I'm thinking.
It wouldn't entirely surprise me. Whenever a new executive comes on, there's a couple of things that traditionally happen with most businesses. Website redesigns, logo redesigns, and drastic changes in company policy.
Yep.
Now, this is not the first time this has happened. It's happened a few times, even recently. Sorry. But this is a new direction the company is clearly taking. In the 40k side of things, they don't seem to be releasing brand new armies frequently enough for this to be a thing. However, with the amount of Space Marine releases that happen, they could start doing this in 40k tomorrow if they wanted to.
Yep.
I'm not saying they should, but they could. It would give them an excuse to flood the market with new Space Marines more frequently, which is clearly what they want.
Yeah. So, anyways, can we talk about the one last thing?
Yes. Because I put that on the list.
I'd put it on the list.
I know.
Hobby Zone. I've talked about it. I've got a bunch of it there behind me. I love it. It's great. Studio X. You and Michelle both got screwed by that.
Yep.
Hobby Zone has a solution for that.
Arguably
So-
a nicer looking one too.
So, well, the Studio X was going to be injection molded plastic, which that's great for durability, and in your case, throwing in a backpack on a motorbike, going to a location, versus the MDF. I know you have some concerns about MDF and on a bike. I totally understand that, but you can customize this. So, if you've got the link up, I'm assuming you do, Bruce.
Yeah. This also
If you-
is bolted together with screws, which would help against what you're saying is my argument.
Yeah. So if you scroll down, there is a configure your portable hobby station button. So
Yep.
if you click on that, that brings up the little configurator. So on the right, you have your options. You have a steel tray. You have a tray that can hold a wet palette and some brushes, a couple deep drawers. And then you can simply just take those and drag them over. As you drag them over to the case, you've got some little white circles and lines that open up. And if you drop something in place, it'll tell you if you can put it there, or it says, no, you can't put it there. And then if you go to grab something else and put it on the exact opposite side where you can't put it because there's something already in place, it won't let you put it there.
Yeah.
The configurator is really nicely well done. This is a really well-designed portable hobby case. So if you know, and this may be something I want to get just because, you know, I feel like I should get back out, you know, and socialize again and like take my hobby with me. This would allow me to take an army on a Megneg tray, put some brushes in, you know. I haven't checked sizes, but it'd be super convenient if, like, say my wet palette would fit in this case. I haven't checked measurements. But that'd be really convenient if it did.
True. I'm playing with the configurator so people can look at it while you're talking.
So, and I didn't. Let's see, portable hobby station. Does it? Oh, oh, hey, that's in Polish prices. So I didn't convert it. It's only giving me the price of the drawers that I've done. It doesn't give me the price of the case.
I don't see a price at all at this, but maybe that comes
Yeah, I
later.
had. Okay, so there we go. I found it. So putting it in U.S. dollars, the case itself is $82, and then the drawers are roughly $7 to $12. There's one that looks like it can hold instructions and do some other stuff that's $20. So fully kitting this out, you could probably be anywhere from probably about $120 to $170. Which, I don't know, what was Studio X? I'll have to find that.
A lot less. Studio X was cheap enough that we should have realized it was a problem.
Well, right now, yes. When it was done, no. I will argue that, you know, if it was launched right now at that price, yes, that would be a red flag. Back when it was originally launched, no, that was not a red flag.
So for those that are wondering, Studio X was a Kickstarter that was run a couple of years just before the pandemic, and basically is a campaign where they ran away with the money. That is my words. We have had private conversations with people that know the people behind the campaign, and the story was that it was intended to be a real thing, but basically the money was mismanaged and that they basically just ran away in shame, essentially, that they couldn't do it. Like, it just hasn't gone well for them. So apparently, like, they didn't deliberately scam people, but they also never came back to the campaign and said, "Hey, look, we're sorry, but we're broke."
It gets worse than that. So apparently, there's also been a divorce.
Yes,
and
but I wasn't going to go there because I wasn't sure that we should.
Well, there's some. So part of the Kickstarter was a bunch of like off-the-shelf products like paints and brushes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The guy has just completely up and disappeared, and his ex-wife is now actually stuck with the product that was left behind, and is being legally forced to fulfill that portion of the Kickstarter.
Interesting. I hadn't heard that part of it.
Yeah, so
See, it's a
like
very
the paints,
messy situation.
Yeah. So, but yeah. So I saw this the other day when I was looking through Hobby Zone because Hobby Zone's a great company, and I saw this, and this was a while ago, and I kept meaning to bring it up, and finally I remembered today to put it on the run sheet. So,
Yeah. It's
okay. So 20.
genuinely a really good looking product. It looks better than a lot of its contemporaries do. I like that, like the logo on the side. I love the fact that there's armor made out of paint pots. That's just hilarious to me. It just works really well. I think they've done
They
a
do
really
have
nice
their
job.
they do have their own wet palette that will fit in it. So
Nice. So yeah, no, I definitely would, like, if you're in an area where you can get access to these things at a decent price, I would definitely check it out.
for sure.
How sturdy do you think that? Well, how sturdy is your bench back there, George?
It's reasonably sturdy. Like, can I grab one of these modules? Not
What I'm getting at is someone like me in the military that has to move around every 2 or 3 years. Setting up something like that because I'm wanting something. I don't have anything. I have all my paint in a Tupperware bucket right now, and my fear is moving around every 2 or 3 years, that thing getting smashed or something like that. And
I would say this is not going to replace your Tupperware buckets.
yeah,
Your Tupperware buckets are going to have some flex and give so that if they're squished, they're not going to, this is, if pressure is applied to it, it's MDF, it's going to crack.
yeah.
The glue
This
will
is more
hold,
of
but
a,
the MDF will not.
yeah. This is more of a, you're going to throw in, like 20 dropper bottles, a tray of minis that have been magnetized, some brushes, a wet palette, some other stuff. You're going to put it down in your car. You're going to drive to a hobby shop. You're going to sit down, pull the stuff out, work on it with your friends while they work on their stuff.
Sorry, I'm talking about the stuff that you have on your bench back there too. That's what I'm talking about too. Is
you're talking about like
the full setup.
The actual setup, yeah. Here's
you're
my
talking
thought,
about
Socks. A Tupperware container, whilst it isn't going to stand up for moving, is probably going to stand up longer on the move than MDF will.
Yeah.
Also, it's actually not that expensive to replace it. You can get this somewhat locally, so the expense is kind of to the side. But the moment MDF snaps, you're not going to glue that back together. Whereas if you get a bit of a crack in the Tupperware,
just go get a new one.
Just push it back into place and then wait until it's broken beyond repair.
So
I'm looking where this looks nice.
Yeah. Let me see here. No. Oh shoot, that's out of stock.
My argument would be is that this would be a better solution, but not for that reason. It would be aesthetically, this is a much better solution. Practically, this would be a much better solution because I know what it's like to dig through a Tupperware of paints. It's a nightmare every time you have to do it. But wanting it to be more sturdy during your every 3 years where you move is not a reason to buy this. It's, I would argue, irrelevant.
So I would say if you had a good container, like you would have to unload your stuff and move that separately. But if you had a good container to throw this in, so like, do you Costco?
Mm-hmm.
So the black tub with the yellow lid?
Yep.
That Costco is famous for? If you were to load the benchtop furniture into a tub like that for your move, yeah, it'd probably be fine and survive because that's a fairly rugged tub. I thought you were talking about like the portable workstation. Yeah. If you were to get yourself a good container to put it in, I would say it would move fairly okay. You might have to replace a drawer module. The paint racks will probably be fine. But yeah, it might be a good option. And there is it's a hobbyzone.biz is the site. And this for everyone listening. This is the
not sponsored.
The US. The US site to order and ship from.
I have a thought in that regard. If you're wanting
Yes.
to travel with it, you know how you can get the blue roll, like the blue rolls of dishwashing cloths, where you buy it in bulk, you get it in like a roll. Just buy 1 or 2 of those at $3 or $4 each, and just roll out what you need. Cover up the drawer inserts, put it in the box. Cover up the drawer insert, and just add padding essentially.
Trim, glue, prime, paint.
What have you been up to, Socks?
A lot. I
Talk
only
about
did two
everything
on.
you've-
I only did 2 unboxing videos. One of them's already come out. The other one will come out this week?
No, it'll be next week.
Okay.
And unless
So-
unless I decide to put something else out first.
So, for those of you that have seen my Maximilian and Crimson Skies box unboxing, I built the Maximilian. It's a beauty.
It's so pretty.
So I'm looking forward to getting her painted up. This is the Lyceum for the Sultanate. The Maximilian is for the Empire or the Imperium, the Germans. So that's the flagship for flyers. Where is it? Here it is. Another little Mass 2 flyer.
Nice.
This is the Nasser. And then a couple of Mass 1s. I really like these guys. These little skybarks with the little sails.
Yep.
And then
Speaking of retro sci-fi,
there's the Tannis
Ooh, I
control
love
ship.
that.
That's the Egyptian hovercraft that shoots out bombers. What were you going to say, Bruce?
The one with the sails on it. I love retro sci-fi. Speaking
Yeah.
of retro sci-fi vibe,
And then another Egyptian Mass 2 skimmer. This is the... which one is this?
the one that's
The Manjet. The Manjet.
Call yourself a war host.
I know. I got so many new units. I'm trying to figure out which one's which now.
he's also
And
only had them
then-
for a week or two.
Yeah, just a week. The Lasath cruiser. This will go with my order squadron. As you guys know, I asked you guys what your thoughts were on Mediterranean bases. So this is how I painted up my med bases. All it was is white paint with 2 coats of athletic blue on it. So that's all it was.
Yeah. So it's
So
got like that nice teal Mediterranean Sea looking color.
correct. And then I got 8 of these. This is what they look like before. And I've painted up 6 of them to be like that. So they turned out really, really well. So that's what I've been up to. And you can see on my table, I still got stuff I'm putting together back there. So from all my unboxings.
Good boy.
So that's what I've been up to the last 2 weeks.
Nice. George? He's been doing stuff.
Gorillas,
So yeah,
orangutans.
I've dry brushed all of the YA Games ape army or ape team. And I noticed I got that speed paint set from War Painter from Valhalla Hobby, and I have found the best gold to paint with.
Oh,
I
the
can get
speed
this
paint gold? Yes, I agree. They're
Yeah,
amazing.
one coat and it's just beautiful. So
The only
doing the
difference
slap
with the
top-
speed paint metallics is that it doesn't add the depth because that's not how they work. Like you have like a mid-tone and a little bit of a shade, but you'd still need to wash it really.
Yeah.
But that's because they're not supposed to work the same way.
yeah.
They're just
So
easy.
I am doing these guys with slap chop. I'm experimenting with that technique, hence all the dry brushing, which the dry brushing really just pops the detail on these guys. Like,
Mhm.
holy
Yeah.
smokes. But then here's the orangutans, which are the throwers, and just look at the fur on that.
So good.
That is primed black, stippled with a dark gray, dry brushed with a mid gray, dry brushed with a white, and then the whatever the orange was I picked to do the orangutan fur. And I might be sold on this technique. It was way too easy to do all that.
Nice. So last episode, I revealed that I had my crit box. I started building that night, only to find out. So I'm very lucky in one way. I actually decided I was going to try experimenting with doing like a hobby video, kind of taking inspiration from what George had done. So I was just recording everything, pretty much. And part of that was like, I got everything out of the box, I held it up to the camera, and just one at a time. And I didn't really think anything of it at the time. But when I was building one of my shapers, I was missing a piece. And this meant that I could go back and look at the footage and discover that, oh, it came out of the box like that. So in one way, I'm very lucky because that gave me evidence. Because Games Workshop don't have the wonderful customer service that they used to.
Must be the new management.
Well, here's the thing. So there's always been this argument, and we have used this argument in the past, of Games Workshop have beyond acceptable customer service, and that maybe is a little bit of reason why things are more expensive. Now, we also, I'm not saying that that's what should be expected. They always went further than they should be required to. Like, they gave people stuff for free where they really had no reason to, quite frequently.
Yeah.
For the record, it's not what I was asking for. But my guy was missing a piece. It came out of the box like that. Could I have ignored it? Yes. I didn't want to, though. I paid for it. I want what I paid for. So I reached out to customer service and said, look, hey, this is what it is. I sent them pictures, and they basically turned around and said, nope, you've got to go back to the store. So, fine. So I went back to the store, and I reached out to the person at the store that I know. I was like, hey, this has come missing a piece. Yep, that's fine. All I need is a picture of the sprue, hence why I'm really glad that I was doing that video, because I wouldn't have normally taken pictures of my sprues, especially one that I hadn't noticed was missing something. But that meant that I had evidence. So I sent that through, and their rep was like, okay, no, that's not good enough. I want the entire box back. So I was like, I reached back out to them. I was like, hey, this is what the guy has said. Surely there's a better way of doing business here. I was not asking for anything for free. I didn't even put that on the table. I know that it's not possible, and people need to hear this because people don't understand this. It's not possible for Games Workshop well, it is possible, but Games Workshop would never just send you the piece that you're missing. Because they can't just produce that piece. They have to produce the entire sprue. So at minimum, what you should expect is for you to give over the piece with the missing piece and get the new sprue in return. That would be a fair assumption to have. But no, they wanted the entire box back so they could look at it to prove that it was missing the piece. Because although they didn't say it out loud, clearly they thought I was lying. Despite having supplied video evidence that it came out of the box like this. So I had that kind of killed my hobby for about 5 days.
As when it's kind of gone that way.
I went back to customer service, like I said, and basically said, look, I understand where you're coming from. I'm not trying to get anything for free out of this. But surely I could just arrange to give you the piece back that's missing the piece and swap it for another one. Surely, because they're only selling it as a box set right now. I understand that. But in 3 weeks' time, it will be released as a single miniature that you can buy by itself. So it's not like they don't have these things ready to go. Games Workshop do business 3 or 4 months in advance. It used to be years in advance. They haven't been like that since the pandemic. And I got no response from customer service whatsoever. That email was about a week and a half ago now. So I actually did bundle everything up. I took it into the store to get it swapped. That was last Saturday. The store heard back on Wednesday that it was being sent back. The store still hasn't been told what the response was, whether it's been replaced or just sent back or whatever. They also still don't have the box back at this stage. The reason I have this is because I bought a second box. Because I was excited for this release. I'm still doing my Army of Crude. But, I have never been more disappointed in a company.
Do you know who has good customer service?
War
War Cradle Studios. Guess what?
TT Combat.
These two, you guys, I didn't buy my Sultanate army originally. I bought it off from one of my local players.
That's right.
Who moved away, tried to build a community up where he was at, and one of his sets didn't come with these. These two in particular. I contacted War Cradle Studios and said, hey, I bought this off of a friend of mine.
Yeah.
They didn't come in the box. Is there any chance I can get them? They showed up on Friday.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, again, Games Workshop are a company that used to go, I would argue, too far with their customer service. Not to say that that's a bad thing. Doing more that's expected is a wonderful experience from a customer. But it costs them a lot of money to do that sort of level. And they should never have been expected to continue doing that. But they have very clearly gone too far in the other direction at this point.
Yeah, because
it really killed my motivation. Like, again, I've got to a point now where most of this stuff is all built up again for it was really disappointing. I also managed to find this guy. This is the character that came in the Black Library game. I'm going to use him as a shaper.
So
the Warhammer Quest one.
Just to recant to you a Games Workshop incident I had. This was with my Fire Slayers. The big dragon dude. I'm trying to remember exactly how it went. It used to be just the big dragon dude, and then I think there was like 10 troops in it, or something like that. But anyways, so I ordered it, and like 2 days later, they launched the new box that did or didn't have, I can't remember exactly. And I was just like, hey, I just bought, I haven't even received this yet. And the customer service rep was just like, oh yeah, hey, that's a thing. And I either got like a $50 gift card to use on something else to make up the difference of, like the cost difference, or they sent me a box. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was just like, oh yeah, totally. It was like, a $50 value of something that I got. Which I was just like, hey, can I cancel this order and just reorder it? And they're like, no, we'll just do this.
Yeah.
So they used to be like that, and obviously, apparently not now. So
yeah, like I'm giving credit where it's due. I was never expecting them to go to that level because it's not fair to them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, in Australia, they actually broke the law by telling me to go back to the store. By law, they're actually required to help me themselves. I didn't really make a point of that at the time because I didn't want to be a Karen about it. Sorry if your name is Karen. It's just a thing. It's a meme that I'm leaning into. But after getting such a terrible response, I went back to them and said, look, hey, I don't want to be that guy, but in Australia, the law is actually that I'm allowed to come to you with this. This is the response that your rep has said. Surely clear heads can prevail here. We can do something that makes more sense. This is just a really bad expectation, especially from my point of view. And I didn't get a response at all. So
surprised to get these because they didn't have to send these because, like I said, I bought this from my friend. Yeah. I bought his entire army, and these were supposed to come in his box. So thank you, War Cradle Studios.
Yeah. They
also,
are the
Bruce,
same portals that are
Bruce,
in. Yep.
You don't have the hair to be a Karen, also.
But yes, those are the same portals that Wild Wild West Exodus uses. So, which
yeah, that's what
I even asked Stuart up at War Cradle where to buy those because there's not too many sets out there in the Sultanate that actually come with those portals, and I was just like, where can we get more of these? Because not everyone knows. Yeah. So let me know.
You can just buy those for.
You can
for Wild West Exodus,
and you can buy more bases if you need to, and flight stands.
Otherwise, I haven't really done. most of my hobby has been the building of the crew. So far, building the Crutox has been the most positive experience that I've had. The Crutox Rider is just a really, really nice build. The Rampages, I kind of found very frustrating to build. Like, they're not hard per se, but they're just frustrating to build. I've built almost everything in the box. No, sorry. I have built everything in the box. It's just that I still have one sprue of Crute Carnivores to build, but it's the same sprue as the other one. So, honestly, it's been a fairly decent experience. There's not been a lot of mold lines. The Crute Carnivores have more mold lines on them than everything else, which is weird. You would expect them to be kind of even. But like the Crutox Rider had almost no mold lines on it at all.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's just like Games Workshop is very much up. It's just a thing with plastic molding where sometimes you'll get it, sometimes you won't. But it's usually almost always there with Games Workshop stuff. But yeah. Shall we talk about gaming things?
Talk nerdy to me.
This episode, I actually started writing down ideas for topics to talk about. Because I kind of thought, hey, this is an idea that we should do. And this particular topic was inspired by a comment that someone made in a 40k group recently. And this has happened a few times on our podcast where I've seen somebody say something and I'm like, not just, no, that's wrong. It's just, no, we need to talk about why this is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So, strategy tips. There's quite a few channels out there now that literally make their business about either math hammering things out to find out what is the better unit, or just generally talking about how to play something. I mean, we've dabbled in that with the Drop universe here and there. Certainly not to the point where we've made a living. Well, we've made a channel out of it. Like, that's never really been our goal. But there's parts of the community now that are starting to turn around and blame that player on these channels and saying that they have created them or made that situation worse or more common. Which is, don't get me wrong, I don't expect anybody to tolerate that player. Granted, if you're in a tournament situation, you have to kind of expect it, unfortunately, because it's what you're there for. But at the same time, if you turn up for a game, for a friendly game, and the person at the table is going to be that person, walk away. I've said this multiple times. There are, especially in 40k, it's very easy to find a game. You don't have to play with that player. George, describe that player without being horrible. Just so people can get what I mean.
That player is the person that chases the meta, min-maxes everything, will not use something if it is not statistically optimized for his army, and then rubs your face in it when they stomp you in the ground, and then acts like a child when they lose.
Because they're not there to have fun. They are there to stop you having fun. And I mean this literally. This is not just a Games Workshop thing either. It does happen. It used to happen in Legion. Socks, yes?
Yes.
It happens in every game system. It's just something that happens. It happens in video games all the time. People moan about it with COD and Halo all the time. Because it's just one of those things.
I'm sorry, you call it COD?
Call of Duty?
Yeah, we call it COD.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
COD is a fish.
Well, we don't have COD here.
We do. Hence COD.
Fair enough. I've always seen it described online, because it's a meme that you see online. I've always just assumed that it was COD. Because, it says COD. Anyway, Call of Duty and Halo is like, again, that's where this comes from. That player has always been a problem. Since before wargaming was even really a thing. It's always been an issue, because some people are just massively competitive. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just explaining that this happens.
There's a reason why Wild Bill Hickok was shot in the back because of that guy in a game of poker.
Yes, yeah, actually, that's true.
So
There's a few channels that like Auspex. What's he actually called? It's Auspex something. He's the one that was being used as an example in the conversation I'm referring to. And for the record, if this person stumbles across this and knows that I'm referring to them, I'm not having a go at them per se. I'm just trying to explain why that thought process is wrong. Because that player, like, these channels give you all of this information. And yes, you could definitely use it to be that guy if you wanted to. In the case of someone like me, it won't help because the dice will still screw me anyway. But also, there are some people out there that just don't have the brain for that and genuinely need someone to help them with this stuff. Hi, I'm that person.
You guys made fun of me earlier in this very episode for that. You know,
Yeah,
when
we make fun of one of the people in my gaming group too. Hi, Justin.
But, I figured out with Shaltaria, like, hey, don't use particle lances. Use disintegrator branks. You roll more dice. It has the best hit average in the game. You'll wipe someone in a heartbeat. Socks, how many times did you win against Levi after I figured that out? One time?
After? 0.
Oh, after. Okay, zero times after I...
Maybe 1, but it was rare if I did win.
It was right about that time then, and not saying that I was responsible for this, but right around that time... It seemed like a lot of people started doing that, and the next thing you know, Shaltari were taking the top spots because that was how you played them. That was the best way to play them.
It's still how you play them.
Well, yeah. So and yeah, there's some people where it's like they have a brain for this and they love to sit down and figure it out, and then they go and publicly talk about it on a format that anyone can sit there and consume at their convenience. And as you said, some people don't have the brain for it. Some people it's just like, what's the best way to do this? Let me go see if someone's figured it out. And they tell them. And I'm okay with that because it makes someone with mediocre time and ability to sit down and figure that out to bring themselves up to the level of the person that's all they do and act like a jerk about it.
Or at least have an opportunity to try.
Yeah.
Because... at the end of it, like, you could math hammer an army till the end of your life. But if you don't have the strategy on the table, it's still not going to matter. Unless you somehow have a game that's that broken that you literally can't lose. But even, like, I can't think of any games that are that bad. Monopoly, maybe. But even then, the luck of the...
Shaltari before they changed the gates and the microwave array on the frigates.
So
if you took those frigates with the microwave array and disintegrator banks, you literally could not lose playing Shaltari. That's just a given fact.
Yeah. So these channels are out there. They give this information out there for everybody, and like they are like some of them are the first out, some of them do it later, and there's still people arguing today about whether the Kroot are any good on the table or not. There is some people that are actually trying to argue that, with the exception that they don't have any way of taking out big things, like tanks and stuff, that they may actually be extremely competitive. I don't really believe that, but I haven't played a game yet, or for ages. And you would still need to have a hammerhead or something to be able to deal with tanks and dreads and stuff, right?
But
it doesn't make any sense. They wouldn't work.
You do have dice for the southern hemisphere, so maybe your dice won't be as cursed now for you.
About that. I do have dice, yes. But it goes beyond that, because if you have a platform to be able to share what your skill is, if George owns a car and I steal that car to ram raid a shop, that doesn't make it George's fault for owning the car. People are looking at me like I'm not making...
No, that makes complete sense.
This is exactly the same argument. It's not George's fault that somebody else takes his property to do something wrong with it. If somebody is giving a strategy out to everybody because one person may or may not use that information to make everybody else's life more difficult, that doesn't make it the person sharing the information's fault. The information was already there. All they did was talk about it publicly.
Socks, stop blaming me for Levi beating you all the time now.
Okay. Won't happen.
So that was essentially my point of the argument. Like, by all means, if there's strategies out there, if you're in a situation where, because this is the other side of the argument, if you're in a situation where you don't really have that mind of finding this information by yourself, it doesn't make you a bad person to try to use information. People that play Magic go online to find decks all the time. It doesn't make them a bad Magic player.
It's called net decking, FYI.
Yeah, true. It's also called resource management. All you're doing is using the resources available to you.
Mm-hmm.
How you use that information describes the sort of person that you are. Are you out there trying to make everybody else's life miserable? Well, if you are, then you're the problem. If you're just trying to have fun and it's not causing other people around you to be misery, then you're doing it the right way. I don't see why this is so hard.
If you're the guy going out and buy a 2nd edition Rhino so you can hide it behind terrain easier, you're that guy.
Well, yeah. To be fair, that guy was also a really nice guy. He wasn't actually...
Oh, really?
No, he was genuinely a nice person. But he was being competitive because it was a competitive tournament. So,
that's fair.
It was also painted really nicely. So he had actually put work in. But
okay.
I still used it as an example because it's literally an example of what we're talking about.
I'll mostly retract my statement then.
Yeah. Like,
it's
still making that guy? Yes, but at least he put the effort in.
Not in the same way then. I mean, if he's generally if he's not being a jerk about playing, and yeah.
If you're using the old version of the Eldar avatar, you're that guy.
Oh my god, yes. That thing's like a third the size of the new one.
If that. I should really build mine at some point.
We should probably all build all of our stuff that we have sitting around at some point.
My crit first.
And then paint it.
True, we were going to do that this month and we've forgotten.
Oh yeah, we still have that.
We still have that guy.
We still have that skink, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. What are you both doing in May?
Getting ready to move. Literally, my house is getting packed up.
All right, it's going to have to wait till after he moves then. Sorry, guys, it's going to have to wait. It's all Sox' fault. You heard him. He said it. He said we're not allowed to do it. We have to wait for him. It's his fault.
Yeah, truck gets here on the 30th and packs up everything on the 3rd of May. So
how many episodes are we going to be without you?
No, I will have my computer with me. I can keep my computer, so I will be around still.
Okay.
Tournaments, demos, conventions, that kind of stuff.
All right, we have Melbourne Figures Painter Collective is meeting at the last Sunday of this month at the Gaming Arena. They're on Barkers Road in Coburg North from 12 till 5. ArcFest is coming up in a little under 2 weeks' time, April 27th, 28th. If you're not booked down, it's probably late, but I would still check out arc40k.com. 40k, Age of Sigmar, Necromunda, Marvel Crisis Protocol, Infinity. I'm sure I'm forgetting something. There's a whole heap of tournaments there. They're really trying to make this the tabletop event for Victoria. So get behind this. Nunawading War Games Association have a Saga tournament on the 19th of May. It's happening at the Blackburn RSL from 9 till 5. On the same day, this is not on the list, but I'm going to mention it, there is a new Malifaux tournament happening at the Gaming Arena. I don't know if I'll be there or not at this stage, because I don't know if I can be there or not at this stage. If I can be, I will be, but I just don't know yet. That'll be from 9 till 5 again. The last one was fantastic. If you can make it, you should make it. It's not on our recording day, so there is a chance I can make it, but I may have something else on the same day. Otherwise, UK Gaming Expo. That's also coming up very quickly. 31st of May till the 2nd of June at the NEC in Birmingham. So, pretty much the premier event as far as UK scene is concerned. So we should see all of the big ones there. This is essentially their equivalent to Gen Con. It's not as big as Gen Con, obviously, because it's just the UK, not an entire giant country. But
Because America.
yeah. Thank you very much to Valhalla Hobby. They have been sponsoring us now for quite some time. Valhalla Hobby are based in Wisconsin, Verona, Wisconsin specifically. They have a wonderful location with a lot of things from the industry there. Obviously, you've got your 40Ks and your Magics and so forth. The thing we always talk about is the indie side of the business because they feature quite a lot of it. And that's why I always bring it up, because if there's a game that you're into, they will be stocking it. They have your Bushidos, they have your War Cradle stuff, they have Moonstone.
Dystopian Wars.
They have Dystopian Wars. They have almost everything. And if they don't have it, they can get it for you. Their prices are extremely competitive. They're really nice people to boot. I would highly recommend it. ValhallaHobby.com. If you use the code TABLE, you get 5% off any order over. So you get 5% off your first order over $100. Support the people that support us. We'd really appreciate it.
I will throw this out there too. He was also giving you some good advice and stuff on
Damn right he was.
getting your crew box, the return, all that stuff. He was genuinely like trying to give you as good information as he could to ease your issues.
Yep, and I live in a different country. There's no financial reason for him to do that. Yes, he sponsors us, but like that's not information that he can get anything potential out of from the business. He was genuinely just doing it to be a good guy. So, I mentioned it last time. I have a lot of positive things to say because they're genuinely really good people. Where can people find us, Socks?
You can find us at, if you want to become a patron, patreon.com/gettingtabled, $2 a month. Appreciate the support. Our website is gettingtabled.com. And then our Facebook is facebook.com/gettingtabled. And then our YouTube is also youtube.com/gettingtabled. Please subscribe to our channel. It'd be great. If you want to email us, it's gettingtabled@gmail.com. And then you can join our Discord. Invites in the description. And if you're a Patreon, you can also listen to us while we're recording live. JP and Shay have done it a couple of times. And then X/Twitter and Instagram is both at Getting Tabled. And then Twitch is twitch.tv/JasonTheBruce. You still doing that?
Yeah,
on
it's
Thursdays?
casual, but I am still doing it. Not always Thursdays. The day changes now. I'm doing it casually because doing it on a regular basis just wasn't going anywhere. And I was kind of just driving myself into the ground. So I'm just kind of doing it when I feel like doing it now.
And then you also have your Toy Reel, which is youtube.com/toyreel.
Yep. Been a few videos put up recently. New videos coming all the time. We did a live show, was it last week? It was either last week or the week before on the new Joy Toy Cadians, which were really, really pretty. We will have another show up coming up shortly, most likely looking at the Sentinel. I've got a couple of Beast Box videos that are coming, so it's action figure stuff in that case. So highly, highly, highly recommend checking it out. Thank you, George, for being a good example of the power gamer that we don't want to put up with. I'm kidding. George is not actually that bad.
I'm a
Close, but
nice
he's not
guy
that bad.
sometimes.
Sometimes.
Socks.
Rude.
Socks. You smell and you look funny. And Civvy, you're a civilian again now because you don't know the names of things.
Hey, Socks has not been relieved of his command, so he's got that going for him.
Yeah, it's true.
Fair. Okay, fine.
Yeah. Unlike someone in Wyoming.
Slime Socks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for listening to Getting Tabled. Music used in this podcast was created by Eric Matyas at soundimage.org.
Paint your minis.
Paint your minis.